Sample space. A sample space is basically a list of all possible outcomes. So we've talked about probability yesterday, and we know, like, if you flip a coin, you can get heads or tails. That is your sample space. It's the list of all the things that could happen. If you're rolling a dice, you've got numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is your sample space. It's a list of all the things you could get. When we start having multiple probabilities, a composite probability, the list gets a little bit more complicated, and you can draw a tree diagram to help you keep those outcomes and the list of things that you could possibly get straight. So make a tree diagram to show the sample space of tossing a coin and rolling a 6-sided number cube. So the first thing that we're going to do is toss a coin. Well, what are your choices? You can get either a heads or a tails. Once you roll that, once you flip that coin, you're going to roll the dice. When you roll that dice, you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So your tree diagram shows what you could possibly get. So you kind of follow the branches. You could either get a heads and a 1, or a heads and a 2, a heads and a 3, heads and a 4, heads and a 5, heads and a 6. Or if you got a tail on your flip, you could get a tail then a 1, a tail then a 2, tail then a 3, tail then a 4, tail then a 5, tail then a 6. And here is your list. There are 12 possible outcomes if you are going to toss a coin and roll a die. Okay? What is the sample space of 3 coins being tossed? Well, let's look at our first choice. If we're going to flip that coin once, it's going to give you a heads or a tails. Then you're going to flip it again. So if you got heads on that first coin, you're going to flip it again. You have a choice of heads or tails. Once you flip it again, you're going to get either a heads or a tails. So this is how your list of outcomes. You follow your branches down. You could get a heads, then a heads, then a heads. Check mark. Got that list. You could get a heads, and then a tails. Check mark. I've got that list. Follow my branch. I've already used this one, this top one. Now I got to go to the bottom one. Heads, tails, then heads, or heads, tails, then tails. Okay, that's if I got heads on the first one. What if I got tails on the first one? I could get a tails, then a head, then another head. Check that off. Tails, a head, then a tail. I could get a tail, then a head, and a tail, then a tail. You're just kind of following your branches, following the path until you get each one of them listed. So there are a list of 8 different possible outcomes here. 8 outcomes. So if I were to ask you, what is the probability of getting 3 heads in a row? Well, look at your possible choices. 3 heads in a row. There's 1, 2, and 3. That's 1 out of 8 possibilities, 1/8. Okay? In the back of our paper, we're going to spin a spinner and toss a coin. Well, our spinner right here is either A or B. So there's your first choices, A or B. And then you're going to flip a coin. You can, after you get A, you can either get heads or tails. If you spin the spinner and get a B, you can get a heads or tails. So our list of outcomes is A heads, A tails, B heads, B tails. There are 4 possible outcomes. Maybe you've seen a pattern, I'm not sure, but there were 2 possibilities on this spinner, and when you flip a coin, there are 2 possibilities as well. 2 times 2 is 4. That is always your total number of outcomes. Take a look over here. We're going to choose a card. Our cards are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we're going to toss a coin. So our first choice, we could either get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5. After we get a 1, we can get a heads or a tails. If we got a 2, we could still just get a heads or a tails. And then we're going to keep doing that until we go all the way through our choices. There were 5 possibilities on the card. There were 2 possibilities on our coin. So 5 times 2 is 10 outcomes. And here is just a list from the tree diagram. Here we go. We're going to spin the spinner and toss the coin. Our spinner has 4 choices. Flipping a coin has 2 choices. So 4 times 2, we should have 8 outcomes. On the spinner, we can either get an A, a B, a C, or D. Once we get an A, we can flip a heads or a tails. If we get a B, we could flip a heads or a tails, and then so on and so forth. You can see the pattern, and here's my list. A, heads, A, tails, B, heads, B, tails, for 8 total outcomes. All right, spinning a spinner and tossing a coin. So this spinner right here has A, B, and C. It has 3 options. And then tossing a coin has heads or tails. It has 2 options. So 3 times 2 means we should have 6 outcomes. On the spinner, you can get an A, a B, or a C. After you get A, you can flip a heads or a tails. If you get a B, you can flip a heads or a tails. And then you can see, keep going, you can see my list of possible outcomes. Okay, a tetrahedral die is tossed and a spinner is spun. You guys do not know what a tetrahedral die is. Here's a picture of it right here, but basically it's 4 sides, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I were to toss that die, I have the options of 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this spinner right here has got 2 choices, 1, 2. So 4 options, 2 options. I should have 8 total. If I roll a 1 and then I spin the spinner and get a 1 or a 2. I can roll a 2 and spin the spinner and get a 1 or a 2. I can roll a 3, then spin the spinner and get a 1 or 2. And the same thing, I can roll a 4, spin the spinner and get a 1 or 2. So here are my list of outcomes. I can get a 1, 1, a 1, 2. Following my branches, 1, 1, 1, 2. I can get a 2, 1, or a 2, 2. A 3, 1, or a 3, 2, a 4, 1, or a 4, 2. 8 total outcomes. And last but not least, it says choosing a wall or cordless phone. Well, there's our first choice, wall or cordless. So I put a W for wall phone, I put a C for a cordless phone. And you can get those in either red, purple, yellow, or green. Well, if you get a wall phone, you have the choice of red, purple, yellow, and green. And I just used letters to symbolize my colors. And then if I got a cordless, I could still get a red, purple, yellow, or green. So my total outcomes is a wall phone red, a wall phone that's purple, a wall phone that's yellow, or a wall phone that's green, or a cordless that's red, a cordless that's purple, a cordless that's yellow, or a cordless that's green. 8 outcomes. Our first choice was wall or cordless, that's 2, and then we had 4 different colors, so 2 times 4 is our 8 outcomes.